Hello, my name is Dave Eastman, Senior VP of InCommand Services. Today's training video will demonstrate how site security staff receive and process site access requests in the InCommand portal. To begin with, there are two menu options in the portal related to access requests. One can be found under the Request List menu, and it is specifically for site tenants to submit access requests. The other can be found under the Reports menu, and it is to be used by site security staff to log in and log out site visitors. Let me demonstrate the tenant experience when submitting an access request. They would come to the Request menu, and they would select Access Request, at which point the portal will bring up a form. Before going over this form, let me make a very important note. Only tenants with an approved site access requester role are allowed access to this form. If a tenant user without this role attempts to submit an access request, the portal will not allow it, and instead will direct that user to contact one of the members of their company that has the appropriate approval role to submit access requests. This procedure eliminates the need for an access request to go through time-consuming approval processes. By definition, an access request is approved because it has been submitted by a person with the authority to grant access to their data halls. I'll demonstrate both instances in a moment. So, an approved user will be able to see this form, and they'll fill out the form, the name of the visitor, the company, and fill out all these fields. And they will then submit the access request here. I won't fill out the form, but they have access to this form. If a user without the access privilege attempts to submit an access request, they will be redirected. Let me demonstrate. They go to the request, they attempt to submit an access request, they will get this message. You do not have access to this action. Please ask one of the persons in the list below for assistance. And these are the people within their company that do have the privilege to submit access requests. Once an approved access request has been submitted by a tenant and they click close and save, that access request will then display on the site securities portal under the reports menu. And under the report access, this is where site security, the only place they should go to deal with access requests. Let me demonstrate their view. They go to the access list and they will see all the approved access requests that have been submitted for their site. In this case, there's an approved access request for an individual by the name of John Q. Citizen. The start date for this access was February 12th at 0, and the access request is to extend through the 18th. The status is current, which is why it shows on this screen. When John Q shows up to the security counter, the security looks at this, see there's a valid approval. Their job then is to log John Q in, and they will use this icon here. They will click on it, and they can log in John Q. Now, security then has to fill out this form. How did John Q prove his identity? Was it a driver's license? Was it a passport? Was it something else? They can validate John Q's phone number. If temporary parking was needed, they can fill out vehicle information. If no temporary parking is needed, those fields do not need to be filled out. If they give John Q an access card to get into the appropriate rooms, they can put the name of the access card here. If they gave them keys to cages, cabinets, they can indicate that here. It automatically date and time stamps when John Q arrived. Any other access notes can be given here. For example, if John Q was carrying a server or a toolkit or something in, then the site security might want to take a picture of that and attach that here so that when John Q leaves, he leaves with the same stuff he brought in. At any rate, notes are entered here as needed. Not required. Now, you'll notice that the log out icon now is red because John Q is now in the site. John Q is doing whatever he needs to be doing. And when John Q leaves, he again has to pass the security desk. And any access card or key he was given has to be returned. And when John Q leaves, the security desk now logs him out with this icon. Clicks on this icon. It indicates if a access card or key had been given. In this case, I did not, so nothing's here. It automatically date and time stamps when he leaves, and the security desk simply logs the visitor out. There is another scenario that we need to cover before completing this demonstration. And that's the scenario when a visitor shows up at a site, they go to the security desk, but there's no approved access request. Let's say in this case that the visitor is Jack Q Citizen. Security desk looks and says, Jack, there's no request here for your access. I can't let you in. Jack says, well, I've been approved. I can show you, etc. So the security can add a new access request on the spot. Here's how they do it. On this button, they click the button, they validate their site. Is Jack a visitor, a vendor, a customer? Who is he? Let's say he's just a visitor, and it's Jack Q Citizen. Jack has a phone number. All right. There's no parking. I'm going to skip that. Jack is from visitor company. And Jack's there. Which tenant is requesting Jack to visit? Let's say that it's a demo company. That's the tenant. Now, the company approvers for demo company are listed here. Jack's going to have to say, hey, one of these people has approved and sent me over here. Let's say it was DC manager person. And so the site security will say that the DC manager had this phone number approved it. The access was just to their, we'll say it was to their data hall. We'll explain that below. It automatically says the date and time, and it defaults to a 24-hour period. The site security can change this according to whatever the approver says. Escort required, yes, no. Now, there's a special field here. How was the permission obtained? So Jack said the DC manager sent me here. So either the DC manager is going to have to give the site a call. The site's going to have to call the DC manager one way or another. Was it via email, in person, other, and if it's other, explain. Let me just say security called DC manager and obtained approval. All right. So Jack showed up, site security, filled out this form, got approval from an approved access requester for demo company, and notated it all, and then creates the request. You'll notice the request now for Jack Q Citizen goes immediately onto the site security's approved access list, where site security can now check in Jack. So check it in, fills out the same form they do for anybody, records access or cabinet keys, any notes, pictures. We've already gone over this, and I'm just going to say not applicable, and going to save it. So now Jack has been logged in. Jack is at the site. When Jack leaves, goes through site security. Site security clicks the log out, receives an access card or a key if they were issued, and logs the visitor out. Both of these access requests will remain open until the end date is passed. So if either John or Jack came back after lunch or came back in, they could be logged in once again and then logged out once again until the end date is passed here. So that's how site security processes access requests. At the end of the day, there is an access log report that is maintained that keeps a history of every site visit. This is important when audits have to be passed from certification agencies, etc. Going back to the access list, this is what site security sees. And I'm going to return back to the map just to conclude this training session. I hope you find it helpful, and thanks for using InCommand.